Hello friends, today I'm coming at you with something I haven't done in a very long time on this channel, and that is a Q&A. I asked you guys for questions on Instagram and today I'm gonna answer them. So today we'll be getting into topics such as what I think of the vegan diet, collagen, who should take it, should you even be taking it, best macro ratio to lose fat, and many more. So let's just dive right in. I'm excited about this. I feel like this is just like a fun little casual chat among friends that will hopefully also inform you and give you all the knowledge. Question number one is, what are your current thoughts and beliefs about a vegan diet? It's not enough controversial. Love it. When it comes to diet, my main principle is bioindividuality, or the idea that all humans are different. We have different genetics, different histories, different environments, etc. And that all affects how nutrition impacts our bodies. And so there is no one size fits all best diet for everyone. And this also means that different diets are going to work better for different people than other diets for other people. When it comes to a vegan diet and bioindividuality, one way that it's not going to be suitable for everyone is that there is a genetic discrepancy in our ability to turn ALA, or plant-based omega-3s, into DHA, which is the form of omega-3s that the human body actually needs. Other than algae, there are no plant-based sources of DHA. So if you are eating a vegan or a plant-based diet, your body is going to be getting its omega-3s from ALA, the plant-based form of omega-3s. And studies have found that people from the Nordic regions have a much more difficult time converting ALA into DHA, whereas people from regions closer to the equator can convert that at a higher rate. I don't remember what the actual percentages are off the top of my head, but it's somewhat significant. So this is just one example of how, based off of your genetics, a vegan diet might not be really optimal for you if your body has a hard time converting ALA to DHA. You're gonna end up deficient in omega-3s, which is not great. But some people genetically do have the ability to convert a high amount of ALA into DHA, or at least enough to end up with a good ratio of omega-3s in their body. And you can take this one thing and kind of extrapolate it out to all of the other processes that the body has to go through when it comes to nutrition and converting nutrition into usable energy and micronutrients and all of the things that the body needs to absorb. And based off a lot of these various factors that go into whether or not a diet is going to be bioindividually appropriate for you, a vegan diet, I think, can be really, really good for a very small percentage of people. There is a small percentage of people that will go plant-based and absolutely thrive. It will be the best thing for their body. But that percentage is going to be quite small. Humans largely evolved as omnivores, and as such, most of our genetics is going to be slanted towards optimizing for that. If we look at the spectrum from vegan to carnivore, there's gonna be a small percentage on either side of that spectrum of people that are going to thrive on those diets. For most people, it's a bell curve. Most people are gonna be somewhere in the middle between plant-based and carnivore, i.e. omnivore. I could be here for another 20 years breaking down everything about a vegan diet. I would have to get into all the diets and all the nutrition to go much deeper. Let me know if you guys have more specific follow-up questions on this, because this could be an entire thesis. It could be an entire Netflix documentary, a highly biased Netflix documentary. So let's move on to the next question. Let me know if you have more questions about that. I have a slow metabolism after doing an MRT and DEXA scan. How do I speed up my metabolism? So first thing to note here in this question is that I'm not 100% sure the reading you get for your metabolism from an MRT, but with the DEXA scan, you actually don't get a good reading of metabolism with the DEXA scan. I think both of these are gonna be possibly way too much of an approximation to draw accurate information from in the first place, because especially with the DEXA scan, it's scanning your body. You're getting your weight, your muscle mass, your body fat, etc. And so it's using essentially an algorithm to approximate what your basal metabolic rate, your BMR, would be in theory based off of the average population. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that. The most accurate way to actually measure your BMR is through like a breath test. I think it's called an RMR test. And you literally like have to breathe into a tube for a couple minutes and it measures your respiration to determine your BMR. But your BMR is just one way of quantifying kind of part of what the metabolism is. The metabolism is a complex series of reactions that happen in the human body in order to produce energy and sustain life. And when people talk about a fast or a slow metabolism in the context of weight loss, they're essentially talking about kind of the number of these reactions and how much energy is getting utilized in these reactions. If your metabolism is using up a lot of energy, you have a faster metabolism. If it's not using a lot of energy, you have a slower metabolism. We could go way more into the nitty-gritty, but that's just like conventional way of talking about it. So the measurement of your BMR does not encompass all of what your metabolism is. When we talk about fast and slow metabolism in the context of weight loss, most people are referring to your TDEE, or your total daily energy expenditure. Your BMR is only one part of that. Your total daily energy expenditure is composed of your BMR, but also of the number of calories you're burning just through regular movements throughout the day. So like moving my arms around, I'm burning more calories than I would be beyond just my BMR. It also takes into account the calories burned through intentional physical activities like exercise. You're going to the gym, you burn 400 calories, that is included in your TDEE, and then also the thermic effect of food. So your body has to utilize calories in order to break down and digest food. That's also accounted for in the TDEE and not your BMR. So if you measure your metabolism and get your BMR through like a DEXA scan or an RMR test or something like that, and it comes back with like 1250 as your metabolism, don't think that that means you have a slow metabolism, because that is only your BMR and it's not accounting for the rest of the calories that you're burning throughout the day through all of those various other things. So when we're talking about having a slow metabolism and wanting to speed it up, what we're really saying is increasing your TDEE without having to increase your time spent exercising or like time spent moving around like this. And the way you do that is through a reverse diet, which is a process by which you slowly increase your calorie intake combined with a style of training that is actually going to get your body to go through more of those metabolic reactions, i.e. burn more calories, which is resistance training, so that slowly over time your metabolism adapts to the increased calorie intake and you end up with a higher TDEE. This is going to result in you not only burning more calories at rest, but also burning more calories while you're exercising and while you are moving around like this. I have an entire course dedicated to how to do this. It's called Reverse Dieting 101. So if you want to learn how to speed up your metabolism so that you can eat more to maintain your weight, or eat more while losing weight, or finally get out of that yo-yo dieting cycle where you just keep crash dieting and always regaining the weight because you keep slowing down your metabolism, because the metabolism is highly adaptable and that's what it's gonna do, then you should check out reversedieting101.com. Can you talk about some collagen basics, like whether the supplements / powders are worth it, who needs a collagen supplement, etc. I've been considering it for joint health and very specifically under eye, skin, aging, and fine lines, but I'm wondering if it really does help / if the hype's real. I'm a 30-year-old woman for context. Thanks, love your content. Thanks for your question. So, collagen, basics. What is it? First of all, collagen is a structural protein. It's composed mainly of 3 amino acids, glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. And collagen as a protein provides structural support to tissues and is also really important in various cellular processes, such as tissue repair, immune response, cellular communication, and a few other things. So collagen itself, super critical for the body. If you didn't have collagen in your body would literally just like fall apart. So our body has connective tissue cells called fibroblasts, which are what produce collagen naturally in our body. But as you age, fibroblasts just become less efficient, because that tends to be what the body does. And so your body naturally produces less collagen as you get older. This is kind of similar to, we know that as you age, you need to consume more protein because the anabolic effects of protein diminish as you age. So like, this isn't like some weird thing specific to collagen. This is just kind of like how the body works. Things get less efficient as you age. So essentially what taking collagen as a supplement does is it supplements this increasing deficit in collagen production in the body. So basically, if your body's not producing as much, you can start taking more so that your body has more collagen to use in the connective tissue repair and the other things that it does with collagen. There's some like weird pushback online, like especially in the last couple years, about collagen not being useful in any capacity because it's not a complete protein. Like, I think someone just said something that was probably true, and then people took it and like ran with it and made it just make no sense at all. So collagen is not a complete protein. A complete protein has all of the essential amino acids in it. And there are various dietary sources of complete proteins, such as animal meat, quinoa, but not all foods that have protein are complete proteins. For example, beans have protein, not a complete protein. But people in the last few years have been saying that like you shouldn't count collagen towards your protein goals because it's not a complete protein. But like, would you not count beans because they're not a complete protein? Like, no. You count all the protein towards your protein goal. Like, no, you should not be getting all of your protein from collagen because then you are missing out on other essential amino acids that collagen does not contain. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't count as protein just because it's not a complete protein. I don't know who started this. That myth needs to die. So basically, yes, the hype around collagen is real. It is a specific protein that fits into specific mechanisms of the body and can be helpful with that. Specifically, collagen has been shown to support skin health and elasticity as well as the health of your connective tissues. So should you take collagen? If you were to come to me and be like, Marissa, this is what I want to accomplish, should I take this supplement? My first question to you would be, are you doing the other big things that are going to move the needle a lot more for that goal? For example, if you're trying to support joint health, the biggest thing you can do is like overall reduce inflammation in your body. So are you eating an anti-inflammatory diet? Doing that is going to go a lot farther than just adding collagen to an inflammatory diet. Are you sleeping enough? Also going to help reduce inflammation and help your joints a lot more than adding collagen. If you're doing all the big things already, then yeah, add a collagen supplement. But if you're not, start there. Next question. Tips for knowing if you're working with a good trainer or coach. I'm getting great results, but I'm so stuck on thinking it might not be sustainable and that I'll regain weight. I feel like this is a huge question, and there are a lot of signs of bad trainers. If you watched my content, you should be able to vet a lot of people. For example, if they think there is a one diet fits all solution. Next, one big thing is they should be able to tell you specifically why they're having you do what they're having you do, i.e. their programming for you should be tailored to you and your goals. And if they can't explain why they're having you do something specific, then they probably don't know why they're having you do something specific. And you don't want a trainer that doesn't know what they're doing. Like, if you were to look at all of the various programs that I've written for various clients and just seen what I had them do, like, none of them have done the same thing in any capacity. Like, yes, there's a lot of overlap and like things that are somewhat consistent throughout different clients' journeys. Like, most of them doing resistance training, but I wouldn't necessarily have every single person doing resistance training. Like, it depends on their goal. For most people, I emphasize whole and processed foods, but I've had several clients who've had not so great relationships with foods where that was not a restriction that I put on them because that would have been a bad idea. Another big sign would be if your goal is fat loss, if they put you in a deficit without first accurately determining your TDEE, this is a huge mistake that I see all the time, because you cannot simply just use an online calculator based off of your height, weight, and activity level to determine your TDEE, especially if you're someone who's been dieting off and on for years. Chances are your TDEE is below average because, as I said, metabolism is super adaptable. If you're constantly dieting, your metabolism is going to slow down to compensate for that. And so your TDEE already below average. And so if your trainer's like, oh yeah, this is your TDEE based off of a calculator, here's the deficit, like that deficit might actually be more than your TDEE and you might start gaining weight. You have to determine your TDEE properly before putting yourself in a deficit. And I actually go into how to do this in depth in my course Fat Loss 101, so you can actually tailor your weight loss program to your exact body and your body's needs. But in short, you need to be weight stable and know how many calories you're consuming every single day on average, and then that is your TDEE. Like, your average calorie intake when your weight is not fluctuating is your TDEE. I don't care what a calculator tells you it should be. That's how to determine it. not the calculator. And depending on how much fluctuation is in your diet, you might need to spend a couple weeks doing that to determine your TDEE, which is why so many trainers don't want to do it, because then they're like, oh, sorry, like you can't lose weight right away. Like we have to take a month to do all these other things first before we put you on the right track to actually making progress to what you want to do. Because people like hear that and they're like, no thanks. But like that's what you have to do. And if you don't do that, you're potentially going to cause a lot more harm than good. You're going to cause a lot more yo-yoing back and forth, or you're literally just not going to have a baseline from which to make adjustments when things aren't going as expected. Like you need to know your baseline, or else if something goes wrong, you're just going to have to keep starting over and have no idea why. Very passionate about this. Another thing, if your goal is fat loss, if they're not having you do resistance training, they don't know what they're doing. With the caveat that it should also be tailored to you and your body. And if there's a good reason that they're not having you lift, I could see that being a thing. But they should be able to explain to you precisely why they're not having you squat heavy when you're trying to lose fat. I have many videos about why resistance training is key for fat loss if you want to understand that more, so you can actually quiz your trainer and find out if they know what they're talking about. Also, if they don't do like a comprehensive health assessment before they start, almost just knocked over. I mean, there's not much left in here anyway, but that was almost really loud. If they're not assessing you beyond your physique to start your program, okay, to be fair, that's a tough one because technically that's a little bit outside the scope of practice, especially if someone is like working for a gym. They might not be allowed to do much about that, but a good trainer is aware that your results in the gym come from a lot more than just what you do in the gym and what you do with your diet. Like it's not all about training and macros. That is a very large portion of it, but for a lot of people, you also have to take into account hormones, maybe autoimmune disease, maybe high cortisol levels, maybe thyroid issues. And if they don't know these things about you from the get-go, how on earth are they gonna make a good program for you and your body? Like if you are female and they don't ask you if you have a regular menstrual cycle, that's an important question. Like that will tell you so much about a client if they should be having a regular menstrual cycle but are not having a regular menstrual cycle. I could go on and on. Last one, if they tell you that you're gonna lose X number of pounds in the next couple weeks, like when you start working with them, no. Almost every single person who is hiring a personal trainer should not immediately start with fat loss, even if fat loss is the goal. And it goes back to what I said about a baseline. Like if you don't have a strong, healthy, stable baseline established, then you're kind of just seeing what happens and hoping that it works. Next, mold-free coffee. How does the mold affect you? Recommendations for mold-free coffee. So, love this question. First of all, coffee is known to be one of like the moldiest foods. It has trace amounts of mold in it. Mold produces mycotoxins, which are toxic. The effects of mold exposure can include immune system abnormalities, nervous system abnormalities, negative impact on your brain, on your hormones. Basically, it can affect your whole body systemically. Most people are exposed to hazardous amounts of mold through their homes. So if you are concerned about mold exposure, start with your house, but also coffee, probably a good thing to look at. The biggest pushback on like whether or not moldy coffee is bad is that the levels are super low. But whenever I've seen anyone making that claim, they're referencing the amount of like mycotoxin that would be found in like 1 cup of coffee. I don't know about you guys, but I think anyone who drinks coffee is drinking more than 1 cup of coffee in their lifetime. Like you can't just consider the effects of 1 cup of coffee. You have to consider the effects of 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 cups of coffee a day over the course of a lifetime. That small amount of anything bad in any food that you're eating regularly compounds over time. Like that's my pushback on all of the arguments where people make those claims about various things in foods that are not healthy when they're like, oh, but the levels are super low. It's like, okay, but you're not just having it one time. You're having it maybe multiple times a day, every single day. So it's not something you should necessarily ignore. And this is especially true if your health is already compromised in some way. If you have an autoimmune disease, if you have gut issues, if you have a hormone imbalance, you're gonna be even more susceptible to any sort of toxins that are compounding in your body over time because your body's already compromised. Like in 2025, how many people's bodies are truly like robustly healthy and resilient? Like I can't even say that. I'm still trying to heal my body from my ongoing skin issues. Like clearly there's some underlying something that is compromising my health in some way. So as far as brand recommendations go, I have a list that were recommended by other people that I trust. I'm not affiliated with any of these brands. I have tried a couple, but not enough to like solidly be like, yes, this is the best coffee ever. But Life Boost, Kion Coffee, Purity Coffee, Bulletproof Coffee, Paleo Valley, Polyphenol Dense Organic Coffee. Next question, what are your thoughts on creatine gummies? So first of all, creatine, amazing supplement. One of the most studied, safest supplements out there. I have an entire video on creatine. I'll link that down in the description box below if you just want to know more about creatine as a supplement. When it comes to creatine in gummy form, if you guys know me, you know that I prefer to keep everything that I intake as least processed as possible. I don't think there's any advantage to taking the creatine in gummy form. Also probably a lot more expensive than just buying straight creatine powder. Like personally, I'd rather just take a straight creatine powder, add it to my smoothies, add it to my coffee, add it to something. If that's impractical for you and you still want to get in your creatine, like sure, have a creatine gummy. That's it, that's all I got for creatine gummies. Next question, best macro ratio to drop belly fat and put on muscle. I have about 40 pounds to lose. So when it comes to macros and fat loss, I have a bit of a hot take here. Basically, you have a ton of flexibility when it comes to macro ratio. There is no one best macro ratio that I think can or should be applied to everyone. And I talk about this again in depth in my course Fat Loss 101 to help you determine your personal best macro ratio for fat loss. Because again, bio-individuality, it should be based on your body, not some like generic recommendation that might work pretty well for most people but might not be what's optimal for you. But the general outline is protein, start there. Like you're gonna want to eat roughly 1 gram per pound of your goal weight in protein while you're in a calorie deficit. So if your goal weight is 125 pounds, aim for 125 grams of protein. Then beyond that, when it comes to carbs and fats, at minimum, eat enough fat to be healthy. Eat enough carbs to be healthy. That's gonna look different for different people. Like fat, very important. Don't eat no fat. Like you have to eat minimal fat. Carbs, very, very individual, especially if you have underlying health issues or if you have insulin resistance. Like you might want to be lower carb if you have insulin resistance. If you have PCOS that is insulin sensitive, like you're gonna have a much better time going lower carb, much easier time losing fat going lower carb. Other people's bodies are going to thrive on more carbs. You're gonna have more energy. Your workouts are gonna be better. You're gonna have better recovery. And that in itself could lead to faster fat loss. So this is why it's so individual. I'll give you one little secret from Fat Loss 101, and that is that I recommend staying between a 0.3 to 0.7 ratio of carbs to fat when it comes to calories from carbs and calories from fat, not grams. But that is a wide ratio. And so within that ratio, find what feels best for you and is best for your health. I will say, health issues aside, most people are probably gonna wanna lean a little bit more on higher-ish carb, not like high carb, just like not low carb, because carbs are so good as a fuel source for your workouts, for energy, for recovery. Like the better your workouts are gonna be, the more efficient your fat loss is gonna be, especially because you should be resistance training and carbs are really gonna help fuel that. So do not be afraid of carbs when it comes to fat loss. But if you personally find that eating more carbs makes you feel more sluggish, maybe it makes you crave more foods, which makes staying in a deficit harder. Like there's any number of reasons to be on the lower end of that carb to fat ratio. Find what works for you. Next question, number one change you can make to get yourself back on track with health and fitness. You guys are gonna hate me for this answer because again, it is bio-individual. I guess not bio-individual, it's just individual, right? My answer here is find the thing that you have the biggest deficit in and start there. So like if your diet's on point, but you're maybe working out once a week, like start with increasing your workout frequency, getting more consistent with that. Whereas if your training's on point, but your diet sucks, like start with your diet. And just to give you guys a more concrete answer for funsies, I would say if you're doing literally nothing, like if you are starting at square zero, you're not exercising, your diet's not particularly great, you're getting like a normal amount of sleep and you're kind of sort of stressed, like I would say start with a consistent exercise routine, because that's a lot easier to build momentum with. And once you have momentum, it's a lot easier for that to snowball into more. I think a lot of people find changing their diet to feel pretty restrictive and overwhelming. And so that might be easier mentally for you to approach if you're already like doing the exercise, because once you're doing the exercise and you're excited about the exercise, you can take that excitement and use that to kind of fuel future changes. But again, if that doesn't ring true for you, if you're like, wait, no, Marissa, I'd be so much more excited to add vegetables to my diet than I would be to start exercising regularly, like start there. Start with what excites you, what is going to motivate you, what is going to kind of kick off the cascade of healthy habits so that you can establish healthy habits and then work from there. Okay, final non-fitness related questions before my camera runs out of battery. How did you get into YouTube and what do you do on a day-to-day basis for your work? Always found it interesting. How I got into YouTube? I started YouTube a very long time ago. Before I started this channel, I have been a YouTube fan since its inception, since the Numa days, since Charlie bit my finger, Charlie the unicorn, and Charlie is so cool. Then went to VidCon in 2012, fell in love with it. My background is in digital media. I wanted to work in film production most of my life, and then I started this YouTube channel. It took off very quickly. It was never my goal to do this as a career, but fourth video went viral. I was like, okay, guess I'm doing this now. And I got to make content, which is like what I loved doing in the first place. And so this is my job. Content creation is a full-time job, plus I am creating and running holistic fitness labs, which creating products for that, also another full-time job. The number of 16-hour days that I worked creating Reverse Dieting 101 and Fat Loss 101, I need to work on work-life balance more. Between content creation, creating courses, products, etc., figuring out how to run, grow, scale holistic fitness labs, having coaching clients, that's more than a full-time job. And then this year I'm actually planning on branching out, because like I said, doing this was never my actual goal. Like, I don't want to be, I love this, I love you guys so much, but the goal is not to be an influencer for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, I will hopefully keep creating videos. I just don't want this to be my main source of income. I don't want to be a slave to the algorithm. So I'm actually working on some cool, fun, other completely irrelevant to health and fitness side projects this year. So let me know if you guys want to like stay updated on that, if you want to hear about my journey on that. I was thinking about starting like a completely different channel to just document it in case anybody cares, but I would be happy to share some of that on here. I don't know. Let me know what you want to know about that. I have like 4 product/business ideas that I am working on right now that are completely unrelated to health and fitness. Okay, I'm gonna quick fire these last few questions. Have you watched Avatar: The Last Airbender? Yes. When I was a kid, that's what was on TV, because we didn't have streaming, so I watched most of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Do you want kids? Yes. Who inspires you? My mother. Actually, like all of my family. My dad, my brother, my grandmother. Lots of them. That's it. That's all the questions that we got time for today. I was thinking this video was gonna be short and sweet and really fast and to the point, but I feel like I rambled so much. But hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you guys learned something. Let me know if you guys want more Q&As. I had a lot of fun doing this. Maybe I'll do another Q&A next month. If you guys have questions for an April Q&A, let me know down in the comments. I will prioritize YouTube questions for my next Q&A. Maybe it won't be next month. I don't know. Whenever I do another YouTube Q&A, I'll prioritize questions from the comments on this video. So if you have questions that you want me to talk about, let me know. In the meantime, do make sure you go check out Reverse Dieting 101 and Fat Loss 101 at reversedieting101.com and fatloss101.com. Like I said, I poured hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of my life into creating those courses just for you guys. If you want to see more content from me all about health and fitness, hit that thumbs up button. It really does support me and my channel. I really appreciate it. You can check out more of my content over here. Hit the subscribe button to see future videos. Hit the notification bell so you get notified when I post a video, and I will see you very soon. Bye!